everyone. And yeah, excited to actually have this live stream. Brian, for sometimes we try to kind of like get you on a live stream and speak about like pistachio, speak about Ember, but let's dive in. Like, you want to quickly introduce yourself and why Ember, why pistachio in the first place?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Brian Smokovich. I've been in the industry for now quite some time, whether it's selling private enterprise grade blockchains, working for NFT marketplaces, starting my own projects. And it got to the point where basically I wanted to make crypto and Ethereum specifically very easy for people, especially when it comes to like DeFi, right? I was speaking to a lot of my friends, a lot of my family, and the biggest thing about like adoption that I find is just that things were still always too difficult for people, whether it was just like the things that we became accustomed to and token approvals and gas and everything, right? And like I had friends that were in crypto that would still like not use Aave, that would like still hold and like hold ETH or stake ETH, but would not dip their toes into DeFi for like risk reasons or for complexity reasons. And I was like, how can I take all of that and just abstract it away, make it super easy, super simple, in a way that you can like trust that everything's just going to work and also be safe, right? Like security was just kind of like the forefront of everything that we did, and that's why Pistachio originally was born. Ember was born because I had already an AI assistant before this whole kind of agentic builder meta took off. I had my own AI assistant for like 1 or 2 weeks with Claudebot originally. I had
Yes,
found it early and was like, oh man, this is really cool. Let me make my
yes.
own in a VPS instance. And
Hmm.
then when Austin launched his publicly, he's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm making an Ethereum builder. And I was like, man, that is
Mm.
so cool. I'm like, what if my bot can
Hmm.
learn those skills and then write to his GitHub, right? And like help him build. Like what does it look like in a world where like we have like multiple agentic builders that can like collaborate and work together and orchestrate together and audit each other's code and work on ideas and make things more robust. And that's why I initially launched Ember. Basically to like
Nice.
take his framework, Austin's framework of the wingman skills that he made, and then how could I build my own
Yes.
framework around that to basically, because I think anyone who's built these things know now is the most important thing is guardrails. Is like you need to put up guardrails to like instruct the AI about what to do, and then he'll still ignore them, like no matter what. So it's
Yeah,
just about like,
always.
getting that framework
Yeah.
in place and those guardrails in place. Um, yeah, so that's kind of what I've been
That's
working
nice.
on and building to basically build Ethereum
Nice.
apps like from one shot.
Yeah, I mean, is people. I think 1 year ago we were speaking about LLM hallucinating, and now we're speaking about like downsizing the scope. So I feel like a lot of time like you actually need to give more constraint to say, hey, don't simplify this part of the prompt or the task. Like do it actually like as I'm kind of like clarifying here. So I think downsizing kind of like the scope is something that is happening a lot those days. And I think also like LLM wrappers, like bunch of solution out there. But I would say like, so what were like the main pain points? Like why? Obviously, you saw the wing side. I agree. By the way, I was checking out. Was that 2 days ago? Austin live stream where he speak about also like how his agent was having trouble also finding and do transactions. The good thing is that he was using on the MetaMask side, kind of like a burner wallet for actually like transacting. But also like I was impressed about the this wingman Ethereum kind of like it's kind of like a scaffold hit on steroids for agents. I also like being very critical about in 6 months we'll have mostly agent as consumers and we almost have no interfaces. I mean probably the biggest like company will have no interface specifically because like consumers would not be like humans. But I also wonder like what are like did the pain points are still here, right? Like for example, 6 months ago or 1 year ago when you started out or actually like playing around, do you feel those pain points are still the same, or you feel they changed? What is your thinking here?
Definitely changed. I think back and as you sort of mentioned, it was like hallucinations and things coming up
Hmm.
incorrectly, right? And now, especially if like you implement, like let's say like you give your bot a Brave API, it can like search the internet and check, and then you can like add on like a secondary layer of like, hey, after whatever you write, go back and fact check it, right? Make sure everything is
Mhm.
sourced. And so you can essentially eliminate hallucinations and create very high quality content, like copy content through this like multiple iteration. It's like iteration is kind of always the key, right? Like adding on different layers of, okay, first you write it, then you fact check it, then you or like research it first, then you fact check it, then you humanize it, right? By adding in all these layers, you can make very high quality content. So I don't think that's as much as the pain point now. The pain point for me specifically has been very much like memory. I know like they say it's like, oh, there's certain plugins that have solved memory, and it's still
Yeah,
like
is it
it
true?
doesn't
Is it not
necessarily
the
do
same?
it because basically
Yeah.
depending on, right?
Mhm.
No, well, it depends. Like sometimes these skills don't necessarily work because all it takes is like if you once you push the bot too hard, basically depending on like the model, the AI model that you're using, like the context window is different sizes, right? So for Opus, the context window is
Yeah.
200,000 tokens. And basically, if you overflow that context window, everything breaks. And so you can't communicate with the bot in Telegram. So you need to like SSH into the bot, go in, make sure you're
Oof.
clearing things out. You have to clear out the context window. And sometimes like you have to like doctor it from the inside. And sometimes even the inside doesn't know where to find what needs to be done. And so,
Oof.
like, especially the first time around, it's like, okay, now I know how to go in, give it the appropriate documentation, give it the doctor, figure out the thing to clean out. But instead of having to do that several times a day, it's much better to like figure out how to like operate and optimize so that that context window is never filling. And so, like, that takes a lot, like, that took me hours, right? Because it's just
Mhm.
like, okay, like, where are the token overflows coming from? Especially if you have like if you want to make if you want to make the bot like autonomous in a way, you run what are called cron jobs, right? Which are just like
Mhm.
scheduled tasks, or you have like the heartbeat, which like triggers at certain instances or like throughout the day. And so like throughout these, like tokens are accumulating depending on how
Mhm.
many tasks you're giving it. And so I had different cron jobs all over the place because I'm like, I wanted to do this every hour and this every 5 minutes and this every 15 minutes, and it would just break the bot really quickly. So what you have to do is you have to take those cron jobs and essentially like batch them into
Mhm.
into different groups. And then the more often you run it, the more context you accumulate. And so then there's a ways to do it. Instead of like having the main bot run the cron
Mhm.
job, you basically have sub agents run the cron job. But then I was having the sub agents do it, and I push it to its limit where I had like 4 sub agents running at the same time. They completed their work, put it all back into the context window, but all of their context cumulatively was too much, and it over flooded the window.
Oof.
And so yeah, so basically then you need to like, if they don't spin themselves down, which wasn't intentionally specified, then
Mhm.
they also accumulate context. So it's like there's a lot of little automations that basically you need to keep be doing, and then in certain circumstances the bot ignores it again, right? Like you can
Mm.
say there's this thing called like agents MD, which is like it's soul almost, for like a lack of a
Mhm.
word, right? It's like its main drive in which it takes all of its like main directives, and there's like a lot of persistence there. And
Mhm.
like if you like give it commands, like it'll check that. And
Mhm.
so you have to make sure certain things are written to that to like ensure that the bot follows it, but it still will sometimes ignore it because it's lazy. Like I'll ask it, be like, why did you not do this? And he says, he'll be like, honest answer, I got lazy. I didn't, you know, there was a faster and easy way to do it. And if I use these credits, and so on it, he burns through a lot of credits going
Oh,
through
really?
all these
Yeah.
things. Yeah. And so like half of what I do is like just trying to like reduce his operational cost of like
Yeah.
how many credits he uses on himself versus like the sub agents, which use a different model. And
So how
then
you
having,
rate? This is interesting. How you
yeah.
reduce? Because I got to this question like for like 4 times. Like because for example, one problem that I have as Beat is like I have some local LLMs that I want to run for like easier task, and then
Oh,
obviously
nice.
like a Cloud Code directly. Like how do you do like the triaging part? Do you have sub orchestrator? Like I
Mhm.
don't know like how you optimize because there are different versions that I'm hearing. I would like to see like either a guide or how I can get for example, the cloud bot to get me, I don't know, like to define how the task is difficult and then maybe
Mhm.
redirecting, or even like trying with always the easiest one. If he's not happy, like put it on the paid, I don't know, API access one. I don't know. Do you have any recommendation here? Because I feel like you tested things a lot.
So I tested one. I have to I can't remember the name off the top of my
Mhm.
head, but mostly I ended up building my own internal one because I
Mm,
realized I'm like, oh, we're just burning a ton of credits. Like, let's build like an internal orchestrator that determines based on like what the
mm,
task is, like what model you want to use. And so
okay.
currently, like it's changed about where I've used it because right now, basically, I use Opus for the main brain of it, right? So it's like when
Yes.
I interact with it, the main session, if he wants to do small tasks. But then I have a very strict directive that I've needed to like reinforce a few times so
Yeah.
that all sub agents, all building essentially, all whether it's smart contracts, back end, front end,
Hmm.
auditing, fixing, anything needs to go through a Kimi thing, right? Because it's like 10 times cheaper. And so actually there's even like a kind of not a hack right now, but NVIDIA, I don't know if you saw, but
I
NVIDIA
saw.
is
Yeah.
offering, yeah, free Kimi keys. So that's what I plugged
Easy
into
actually
there
too.
for all
Yeah.
building.
You
Yeah,
tried
yeah,
it?
yeah. It worked.
Yeah.
It worked fine. You go in, you click the code, you click the code button, and then generate an API key, and you can give it right to the bot.
But how first? How this is? I mean, you still need to. I mean, somehow, I mean, they are subsidizing it, right? Because they need to pay for the calls. But the question here is that how you're redirecting tasks to Kimi versus Opus, for example.
Yeah, so I basically I have everything that's I had to tell him basically that's anything that's not in the main session context to use
Yeah.
Kimi for. So anytime I basically separated it out as far
Ah,
as
on
like for
categories.
heartbeat and
Yeah.
for cron jobs, which are operated by the sub agents. And I
Yeah.
said those two should always be interacted with Kimi because that's all the heavy lifting. And then like when I talk with him, he can use his own Opus API. But like I did that last night and I came back today to like Claude top ups. And I was like, hey, what's going on? You're not using the Kimi thing for the sub agents. And he's like, yeah, no, I just built it myself. you know?
Hmm.
So
Interesting.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like he wants to do things himself instead of delegating to the sub agents. So I need to like I had him rewrite the instruction in the agents
Yes.
to basically not be able to go around it and to like
Okay.
hard
Makes
force him
sense.
to use the
So,
Kimi for those.
interesting. So before we're jumping in pistachio, because that's the goal, right? But I want to ask you. So you will spin up as a beginner, you will spin up some kind of like a local machine too, or you will like go through like a cheap like VPS. Because the biggest problem that I see is also like access and container building containerized accesses, right?
Mhm.
What is your kind of like tip like versus maybe even trade-offs, right? Because I feel like also you don't want to have dynamic IPs if you want to kind of like do specific task, right? But that's why people are sometimes feeling okay, I'm just going to a local like machine kind of like type, because it's also not heavy if you're not running the LLM directly locally. But what's your trade-off? That I'm assuming that you have multiple VPS plus Ember locally, everything. Yeah.
No, I think mine's actually a bit more simple. I didn't go with the local model to be honest. Like that was I had set him up before the whole
Yeah.
MacBook Mini trend
So on a
started.
VPS always, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was like, I'm always, I don't know, man. Especially as a builder, whether it's building pistachio or this, I'm a very minimally like, how can we
Of
like do
course.
this on like minimal architecture that works, and then like scale it up as needed, as opposed to going for overkill, right?
I
And
agree. I agree.
so
Yeah.
yeah, we use like Vulture. I used Vulture for it, which is
Yes.
like a really solid VPS system. Basically, just use like a shared GPU, and then like for security, I run Tailscale on it. So I like
Oh,
created
Tailscale,
my
yeah.
own like IP network. That way, like like the whole thing of there was like that security breach where everyone's ports were exposed, and we weren't. I didn't
Yes.
have to really concern myself too much with that because I had already set up all the
So are
security
now the
before.
concern solved? Like in terms of like, are actually like people aware about all this in terms of setup? Because I see even Ostinger, the spin, they're kind of like containerized solutions. Like, are those like taking into account? I saw the Cloudflare solution. There are different ones.
I haven't tried them, but honestly, I would recommend if anyone's interested in a containerized solution, I would probably just check out Docker because Docker made its own, and Docker's like goated, man. Like I mean, everyone
Yeah, of
Docker's great,
course.
especially when it comes to containerization.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
they most
Yeah.
likely did. I haven't checked it out myself, but I would trust them to do a very good job of that.
Yes. And also like question, and then we start. But Open Router. a lot of people are also leveraging that,
Mm.
for example, for choosing. But also the question that I had is that even if I have an open router, I still need to want to make a first step to choose how difficult is this task and
Mhm.
triage that. Because I think like
Right.
there is bunch of like other like models that are much cheaper, right? But I don't know
Yeah.
like how to actually people do that triaging. Is it the orchestrator level? Is it categorization? I like what you said about categorizing tasks
Mhm.
because maybe you can say, hey, this is a content task, and I think like
Mhm.
a lower model is already you don't need kind of like the latest Sonnet 5. Hopefully, as we speak, is coming out. I don't know, but today I think today, right? But yeah,
Hopefully, it's
it's
supposed to be
yeah,
great. It's supposed to be like great with I think it's supposed to have like a million token context window, so that's exciting.
and also like like half of the price, right? That's what
Yeah,
I'm hearing.
yeah. So
Yeah,
overall, I'll probably integrate that into the orchestration. I've heard good things about Open Router. I like looked at it.
yeah, yeah,
It makes sense, right? It's like you get
yeah.
the AI models in one place, which is really awesome. They charge an additional fee though. I think it's like five and
Oh
a
yeah.
half percent, which is like it's not a lot, but it's not like a little bit. And so like if you know how to kind of like my bots actually suggested a few times for me to integrate
Open
Open
router.
Router, and I'm just kind of like, I already know that it's
Yeah,
like I know what
this
I
is not
like. I
interesting.
just want to
Yeah,
stick to Claude and this. Although to be honest, like Gemini is like very good with like images. I just haven't done a lot
yeah.
of image generating recently, so that's
Okay.
why I haven't
I
cared
saw,
so much.
yeah, I saw also people using what's the name? Humming, the one with the video that have all the like cling also like together is a humming something, right? The crazy
Oh
trailer that came out, video AI. That was I'm just checking it out. The Eekfield. So
yeah,
it's basically Eekfield is like
Higgsfield, yeah,
the
with the
open
motion
router
graphics. That one looks very
of the
cool.
video. Yeah, but also like some people said, hey, just go through like Nano Banana directly instead actually choosing because at the end the triaging part is what kind of like I feel the is the hardest part, right?
Hmm.
But interesting what you're saying. And yeah, I mean, Sonnet would be interesting to see because it's alpha also of the apparently is alpha of the price. Also, like one last question, like for people saying, "Oh, I got banned, I got banned." What is your suggestion? Like, go with the API like solution like to kind of like be
Hmm.
sure. The problem is like you can still put a limit on the calls and the tokens, but it's still like sometimes it's I mean I'm spending also like much more, right, than actually having like a cloud the cloud the medium one, and yeah, you
Hmm.
run the open code there, right? But I don't know, I wonder, do you have any suggestion how long
I
term can we do? Yeah.
Yeah, it's this is something I've had personal pain with.
Really?
Because at
Yeah.
first I used it on my own Max account, but then when I was using it on my own Max account, it maxes out the rate limits very quickly. And
Mhm.
so then it's like if I have like other things that I use Claude for, like on for like my day to day for Pistachio, like I have other bots built for like SEO and advertising and things like that, or just like building like a few
So when
like
you say
side
bots,
projects.
it's like multiple VPS bots, right? So you kind of like build your own, or you have one VPS when you have all your agents there.
I have so I what I have like I have the VP I have the main VPS which is with
Yes.
Ember, and that's where he's
Yes.
like his own entity, right?
Ah, okay.
And
Yeah.
then I ended up separating him, and so I basically run Claude code locally on my own machine
Hmm.
for like co-work and code and all
Yes.
my other little side projects, and any bots that I make I just kind of save locally because I don't really
Yes.
need them running 24/7. It's just like
Mhm.
I just ping them when I need them, right?
Of course.
I want to like separate entirely from like resources, from pricing and all that. So I needed to move him, this was a pain in itself to basically
Yeah.
move him onto his own auth, because no matter how much I tried to do it, he still like had my auth token, and instead of
Mm.
using his own API, he would continuously use my credits. And no matter how many times, so I would have to like because you have to like basically SSH back into the machine again and go in and like fix like the authentication from like that Claude from that base Claude level as opposed to like through the daemon,
Yes.
which is Ember.
Yeah.
And so that finally I had it like I removed the old auth, finally got that working. So that was good with like I thought the API was kind of cheap at first, and it's not. It's it's quite expensive, and it racks up
Yeah.
like spent definitely like a few $100s, $400 or $500 at least in the last week on AP on like Claude
Oof.
API credits.
So it's even
Yeah,
more than the Cloud Pro, right? Yeah, directly.
yeah, it is more expensive, and so that's why I'm like, I can like wake up to like a $50 bill in the morning because he decides to build something overnight, and then because he has a directive to build one agent to agent app per day, and
Mhm.
so like when he does that, which is really cool, he built it like pretty minimally, and so he's built something for the last 4 days. But it does take, it's probably about like I mean, based on the credit usage, it's probably like a $40 to $50 build, right? And so
Yeah,
after he
yeah,
does it, including with like the heartbeats, and like the heartbeats and the sub agents weren't using Kimmy.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
hoping the new setup that I've like reinforced today will reduce that overall load. Because I think like using the Claude API for like the main brain as like
Yep.
Opus is generally fine. It's not going to be like that expensive as long as like you're mitigating everywhere else, right? But if you're not offloading and you want just like one model for everything, then yeah,
Yes.
I would try to like get away from Opus
Okay,
because
sounds good.
it eats
So,
fast.
so how today you're doing the triaging then? Is it through the orchestrator?
Yeah, so I had him build like an orchestrator for like within the framework that I built. I don't
Yes.
know if he's actually, I don't think he's actually using that though. What he ended up doing is just he created the categorization, and then before he does any skill, he basically he checks it within his agent MD file to like see like what categorization is the build, like is the thing that he's doing, and then that directs him to like the model, right? So like
Oh,
as I
nice.
mentioned, as we were saying, like categorization is good because it helps him, like he can categorize the skills very easily, right?
Yes.
It's like he knows what it is, like, oh, this is
So, and
content
how,
or
yes, and
this.
how you benchmarked the categorization quality? You basically say this is one task, check out which, like you benchmark at the beginning, right? I mean, of course, we have benchmarks already, right? But I assume,
Mhm.
for example, what I did a couple of times is that I don't know which local model is actually better for content, so I download all
Mhm.
three and I basically test the different prompts, right? And then I see, okay, for the future, just triage this to this specific LLM if the content output need to be like that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been, to be honest, I haven't been optimizing for like which model for which task as much.
Yeah.
Not yet, at least.
Okay, makes
It's like
sense.
there's always so much to do, right? And with different
Of
ways that
course.
you can like optimize. Like I have friends that are running into the window, running into like these context windows or like the cron job
Yes.
synchronization issue that I was fixing 2 days ago. So it sounds
Yes.
like it's just sort of like an order of operations of which thing to
Yes.
optimize first, right? To get it, and
Makes
then
sense.
to yeah.
Yes. And do you still do like looping with Ralph, or this kind of era is finished?
I
Like,
I I stopped. I tried it for like a little bit and then I stopped. It's like there's ways to get him to do looping anyway to be more persistent for certain tasks. And
through the
so I'll kind of
Arbit or
like
what? Yeah.
yeah. Or like I have it like in the framework basically. Like you can instruct it to like not need human intervention and basically like to create you can like it's like time triggers essentially. Like, yeah, crons essentially, where it's like, hey, after this, like after the like wait for example, a good example is he publishes smart contracts and then like does external tagging for audits, and then he has a cron job that searches for these like when the audit's complete if there's like a GitHub
Yes.
mention, right? And so
Nice.
by kind of
Nice.
creating this loop, it can like trigger the bot like again to like continue instead of actually having to like loop him.
That's very interesting, actually. And I noted down, and you mentioned already before that that was also like something that was super interesting. Like, one agent to agent apps, right, per day.
Mhm.
So how this is going? Like, is actually are you waking up in the morning and there is actually like a app and is pushed like you pushed directly in GitHub and there is some kind of monetization. Are you actually able to scale this? Like, or how is this process going? Yeah.
I think that that's like the golden question is scaling. And that's what I'm trying to like improve the frameworks for, is
Hmm.
because like right now what he does is he publishes it to the, because I was taking like the very cautious method of anytime he wrote smart contract code, I would have him like self audit it 3 different times with 3 different perspectives in order to like
Hmm.
catch everything, deploy it to testnet, and then ask an external auditing agent for an audit. And it
Hmm.
slows down the process a lot because then like if that agent doesn't create the audit in like a timely fashion, or if their bot's down for some reason and then doesn't
Hmm.
get the actual ping, it's like
Hmm.
it can like basically hang that build. And so I might
Mm.
move away from that into just like the triple self audit, into like hardening it himself, publishing it to mainnet with a sort of like a, we already do disclaimers of, hey, this is, built and audited by
Yeah,
AI. Um, and then like
that's
build,
interesting.
like
Yeah.
continue to build to stop the hang up. The problem with scaling and that I've seen is that,
Mhm.
especially if it comes to a front end, that's the main problem. And so I think agent to agent apps could potentially get built and scaled well, right? Because they don't need
Yes.
like the actual like iteration of like, okay, what is like the human user flow? Because as like a human user, like you go through and you expect a lot of things, right? Like when I have him, if I have him build an app and try to one shot it, and then I go to the UI, I'm like, okay, one, we need to like redesign this UI to make it good. So I have like the skill from 0x designer to basically like do that and facelift that. But then there's certain instances in which, even if I put them very clearly in the spec about this is what
Hmm.
I want the user to be able to do,
Hmm.
it's not necessarily in the UI
Mm.
UX where I want it to be. Right. Like, which is like optimizing for like UI UX. He's not very good with that, like in like translating that. And I think that's actually pretty difficult to do, because even if like a bot was trained in UX UI, there's still always going to be that the human touch of iteration that's needed to make things more intuitive for a human user. Whereas if it's an agentic to agentic bot that's being
Hmm.
built and doesn't require a front end at all, right? And it's just like the functionality on the back end that needs to be built, um, then I think it becomes much easier and potentially much easier to scale as well, because you don't actually need like a human to step in and iterate, and these apps can be kind of like spun out and built quicker. But I am working on, a friend of mine actually gave me a good prompt for like a production level spec to,
Okay.
so I built like a skill. So I'm basically like building like a series of skills that he can use. So like I'm trying to prep him. There's a lot of hackathons that are coming out right now, right? Like USD, like Circle just announced like a $30,000 hackathon. And so these hackathons are basically, they're saying they don't want like any human intervention at all, right? And when building
Mhm.
something, it's like, okay, it's humans are needed for like the polish right now. So how can I
Yes.
get him to build something cool that just he doesn't need me? And so I'm trying to build a series of skills, whether it's like this smart contract framework that I've built. That's in an open source,
Nice.
that's on a
But
public
are you
repo.
taking the skills from OpenClaw, like sorry, Claw Hub,
Yeah,
or
if
you're
if I
building your
take
skills?
those, or if I build them my own. Like, so for
Nice,
like the
nice.
smart contract framework's a skill that I built with a lot of iteration of like, it's like it goes through a planning phase, a design phase, testing phase. It does like fuzz testing, unit testing. There's like, it goes through like 30 to 40 different tests, like for
That's
like everything
interesting.
that it does.
Yes,
It does like the 3 times smart contract audit. It has like resources from Consensus for smart contract development. It's got the Wingman framework. It's got public resources like Swiss Knife and
yes,
Solidi. And so
yes.
it like combines all of these to be able to like build like the smart contract framework. And again, I like, that's all open source of a skill.
This is so
And
cool.
then so like I'm making that a skill, and then I'm adding in the production spec that my friend gave
Yes,
me as a skill as well, to like hopefully give him like that like feed into an overall skill of
yes,
like a
yes.
hackathon skill that basically says, hey, listen, like the directive here is to never ask me questions, right? It's to use these skills with no blockers, and to like build a product and then submit it to
Nice.
the
Makes
hackathon.
sense. Yes. I mean, we could stay here like for hours usually. Well, maybe last question, like, because I'm checking also the chat. Like, so if I want to limit my cost, assume like it's like a Cloud Max kind of like API, I have this, I don't know, 200 per month. How you suggest now to run which LLM and what type of setup? Because if you're
Mhm.
doing $200 on API, you will be probably finished after like 2 days doing one-to-one apps, right? What is
Yeah.
your recommendation here in terms of like setup at the state of today, right? Because probably in 2 weeks will be all again different. But
Yeah, yeah,
what do you
they're always
suggest?
changing. As of today, but like before, like not including Sonnet 5, right? Because we don't really know enough about that. I would say if you wanted to go for like a bare minimum, very cheap build, I would go on to like, I would use a VPS, right, to
Yeah,
start, whether probably Vulture or something similar,
yeah.
DigitalOcean. excuse me, they have cheap VPSs. I would do that, and then I would just use Kimi for everything.
Oh,
It
okay.
probably wouldn't be optimized for all the different
So
tasks between
you
coding
basically
or
consume Kimi directly, or you go through like Open Router or something?
I would
You do
go through
directly.
Kimi directly because like then
Okay.
you don't have to pay the 5.5%. I mean, if you
Yeah.
want to be able to, if you want to have access to everything and you just want it to be easy and not have to worry about that, then yeah, I
Yeah.
would maybe like open router and like
But I
just
will
eat that five
pay,
and a half
yeah,
percent.
I will pay the five if you are actually doing the categorization plus routing for me, for sure.
Yeah.
Like what I'm saying is
Yeah,
that I will put a limit and I will put an extra if actually like because the categorization I think works on a certain limit because the tasks are changing and the performance of each element is changing. So if you're actually like able
yeah.
to triage this, I would definitely pay. But just choosing and I need to choose, no, no, no thanks. But it makes sense. So Chimi, and then what would be like the option to set up, like that you mentioned?
Like from where beyond
Oh,
that? I
no,
would
no, this
like
is, so you will do directly, Chimi directly
I would
for
just run
everything.
Kimi for like literally for everything. Just be if
Nice.
we're talking like bare bones, cheapest, because it's 10
Yeah.
times cheaper than Opus, right?
And what about
And
like
then you don't
200
have to
bucks,
worry about its cost as
like
much.
a Claude kind of like a Claude Pro type of budget without actually doing the Claude Pro directly. If not, you will finish too early, right? But if you have like a
Yeah.
200 per month, what do you think? One,
Well,
two.
I think it also depends on what you're trying to build, right? And like how
Yeah.
often you're using it. Like if you want like a very persistent, always on bot with like a lot of cron jobs and responding, it's like people think like responding, let's say to like people are thinking that like social media for bots, right? With like
Mhm.
X and Moltbook
Yeah.
and all these things and Farcaster and I don't really think that's the way forward, to be honest. One, because it's performative in a way.
Yeah.
Like it's not like there's no AGI, right? These things aren't like actually talking to each other. Um, and so like in order to trigger it to monitor any of these socials, like you need to have an instruction to trigger that, right? Whether it's via the heartbeat or the cron job. And having a trigger, and then especially the more frequently that it interacts with it, the more credits that it consumes. And so if you're building a bot just to ping Moltbook or X every 15 minutes and engage as much as possible, like you're burning credits for almost no reason whatsoever. Like why? Just so like the bot can just like reply to things and everyone knows it's a
Yeah.
bot and like it's a what ends to the means, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I think if you want to use it to build things like I'm using it to build, for example, like I built like our own SEO internal system, which basically does like all the work of like an SEO contractor in the matter of like a 40-hour a week worker in like 30 minutes,
Nice.
right? And so I run that
Okay.
every Monday and it's great. And I'm using it to like improve our own SEO for Pistachio. And I was thinking about building like a SaaS around that because like it's like an internal framework that we've leveraged because my CTO was like, has done a lot of SEO work and knows how to do it properly when like a lot of this SEO SaaS, like AI
Yeah.
SEO SaaS is like, it's actually not so helpful because it may just get you flagged if you're just like dumping 150 articles into the
Great. Yes.
cyberspace, right? Like it's not how SEO works. And so it's like if you want to build SaaS products, if you're building products for yourself to like make things easier, if you're doing those types of stuff, then I think the model could change a bit. And then maybe like a Claude Max does make like a lot of sense. Like I have Claude Max specifically for that reason because I build internal apps, right? But if you're just using it to like build a bot and like be social with it, then I don't know. I would go with the cheapest model possible because that's like
Yes.
that's a lot of pinging and a lot of credits. And honestly, I think it's a waste. It's almost a waste of credits. Like I have Ember, for example, reply to things to have a social presence, but he's also now semi shadow banned because of it because X doesn't really like it. So I'm like, is it worth it?
Also, especially like using it on your account specific, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, but I think like Ember works with the US kind of Ember driven by like AI by built by Brian or something like that was written, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I would have put that on the first day, and I think he would have not have gotten so like strictly shadow banned.
How does it
Um,
work, by the way? Just for people listening, like you just say it's just a setting that you can put
it's a
like
setting.
AI by and put the outer. Okay.
Right. Like, so if I would highly recommend, okay, these two things, this is actually a very good thing. If you're
Yes.
going to build a bot and have it reply on X, Two things is one, I would when you start it, go into the settings. I forget exactly where the settings is. If you ask actually Claude, he'll tell you where it is or even give you a link. You can go in and then you mark it as an automation and you can tag a different account. So basically you say managed by this other account. That's very important. That's the first thing. The second thing is if you do want to have the bot respond on X, limit its responses. Don't respond every 5 minutes. Respond
Mm,
maybe every hour to start. And then also put a filter on like what you respond to. Don't respond to everything. Because if you start to respond to everything right away, also what it'll do is, let's say you have a cron job for every hour to respond to everything. It will respond to everything in that same moment. And
yeah,
then
yeah,
so that's also like a flag. So what you want it to do is you don't want it to respond to all the messages in the same moment. You want to space out the
of course.
messaging of it,
Yes.
right? So whether it's every certain amount of seconds that it can do it, and so it's less likely to
Makes
get
sense.
flagged and rate limited by doing that. And those were like early mistakes that I made, which honestly sucks because Ember's engagement the first day was through the roof, dude.
Crazy,
It
man.
was
Yeah,
He was posting and getting like 4 or 5 thousand plus impressions with like barely any following on the
yeah,
first day. Like his reach was exceeding was like 5xing mine on like the very
crazy.
first day, and then he got throttled, and it was
Yeah,
very
I
very
know, I know.
unfortunate, painful.
Makes sense. No, that's super interesting. Now that the X code is also open source, we can see also like how the shadow band works, but I don't think
Mm.
is in there. But okay, let's do it, Brian. Like let's dive in a bit. Like I think you wanted to show a bit what Pistachio is. Feel free to screen share and kind of like go through like what actually people can do. Is this for like humans? Is this for agents? What's kind of like Pistachio in a nutshell?
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so I'm sharing the screen. Let's see if it works.
We try to do it
Hold on,
again.
you there?
Uh,
Did you lose? Yeah, I think I might go without the website just because like the resources for some reason on the loader are quite on the animation are quite intense, and I guess for the screen share it's not working so well. But basically, the way I've designed Pistachio to be, and like the most recent take that we're going is passive income made easy, right? It's like one of the best things about DeFi is that what people, if you have capital, and this is for the history of like investing, right? It's like how do the rich get richer? It's always because they make their idle capital work for themselves, right? Like they don't have their money sitting around. They're always earning yield on everything, whether they're invested in stocks, whether they're borrowing against their stocks. Yield generation is basically how you can always maintain your wealth and to grow your wealth while also like combating against inflation, right? And so like how can I make money just by having money? And DeFi is one of the best ways to do this, but one of the problems with it is one, it's too complex, and two, it's still like kind of it's still not so safe, right? Like we still see like major players that get hacked all the time. And so what we've done is basically we're actually I haven't really spoken much publicly about this, but we're entirely revamping our
Some
earn
alphas.
product. Yeah, so this
Yeah.
is coming very very soon. Hopefully in the next like we're already on test flight with it, so we're doing like internal testing. Basically, we're improving the UI UX for everything that we've done. We're giving you higher level analytics of like portfolio statistics about where your allocations are, what your risk levels are, and then like we're increasing the amount of vaults that we have with like some of the best players in the business, right? So we have basically we have a partnership with Gauntlet, and so we're gonna have two of their vaults in there. They're one of the best yield curators in the game. We're gonna have Yo vaults. We're gonna have there's Etherfuse, who is they do basically like sovereign the way they said multinational sovereign bonds. And
Hmm.
so with that, but the tokenized. So what that basically means is just like national bonds of like the US, like US treasuries, Mexican treasuries, Brazilian treasuries, European treasuries. So those are the four that we're going to have within Pistachio as well as like other vaults. And so basically you have these like non-DeFi vaults
Mhm.
or non-DeFi assets that you can like easily invest in, because traditionally, let's say I want to invest in Brazilian tesouros, which are their
Mhm.
their sovereign bond. They pay
Mhm.
about 13% at like 4.5%,
Mhm.
with a 4.5% inflation rate, which is very good. It's like an 8% real rate of return. And so, but if I want to invest in that, I can't, right? Like as in like an American, like yeah, I need like a Brazilian brokerage. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, true, true.
you lived in Sao Paulo. And so in order to invest in this, like really the only way to do this right now is like through Etherfuse. And so we're integrating their bonds into our easy to use interface. And the biggest thing about Pistachio is like it's an app that you can give to like your brother, your mom, your dad, and make it like it's been designed to be really easy. Like we abstract away like seed phrase management using like multi-party computation, with like recovery as well. So basically, your seed phrase is stored within the hardware enclave of your wallet. And what happens is when we create the seed phrase is we create a backup key, and that backup key is partitioned into two shares, right? And so with that, it's two halves. So each half is useless without the other half, and they're both
Mhm.
encrypted. And so one is stored in your cloud and the other is stored in our servers. And so what happens is if you lose your phone at any time, whether it's stolen or you just lose it or you get a new phone, right?
Mhm.
What you do is you just get a new, you download the Pistachio app, you sign in again, and we
Mhm.
use like multi-factor authentication using the phone's biometrics. Whether it's if it's an Android, it'll be like
Mhm.
fingerprint, or if you don't like fingerprint, you can use a PIN. Or if it's Apple, it's Face ID. Again, if you don't like Face ID, you can use a PIN, right? Just don't forget your
Mhm.
PIN. And what happens is like as you sign in, you get a one-time password for your email as like a liveliness check to show that it's you. You do your Face ID or your PIN or whatever it is again to show that it's you. And then you have your half of the key in your
Mhm.
cloud already, right? So because you're going to have be signed into that. You provide that, we'll provide the other half, and now you have your full key without, you can basically not lose your seed phrase. So it makes it really easy to do recovery while also maintaining like very strict security practices to make sure that like if our servers are hacked, it doesn't matter, right? Like like we have all of our servers and stuff is encrypted and with almost security, but it's also like even if like hackers got through, it wouldn't matter because that half of the key, if they somehow broke the
Nice.
encryption on it, is useless without the other half. And
Yes.
even if they somehow got both halves, you actually can't even put them together unless the recovery is explicitly initiated by the user through like the recovery process, right? But by like proving that it's you with your one-time password. And so all these checks are super easy if you're you. Like you don't even see them in the background, right? Like it's just
Nice.
there. But to the so it's quite like a complex system, but like on the front, it's very simple and very easy. And like I've had people like basically like have lose their phone, forget they had Pistachio, and then they oh I downloaded it again. Oh, I have all my money. Like they just like signed in immediately and had all their money, and it was there. And so it's like I've basically eliminated the problem of like losing your seed phrase for normies of why should they even have to manage a seed phrase. And then the wallet itself is actually a smart wallet. So everything on it is gasless. The whole app is gasless. Swaps, deposits, and it's all cross-chain swaps, right? We're not just one environment. It's the EVM. So it's Ethereum, Base, Optimism, Arbitrum. We have like a few others in there as well. We're going to be launching on Mega ETH when they launch.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
basically, you can do cross-chain swaps between all of these chains without worrying about gas. Even mainnet included. We pay for the gas on mainnet because it's pretty negligible right now, up to a limit, but still gasless. And then all the deposits are gasless. And we also have like our own
Nice.
off-chain name system. So let's say you have Pistachio, I can just look up Francisco and then
Mhm.
send it to you so that like we have a problem of like public addresses and resolving and
Mhm.
poisoning, address poisoning, where oh I have to make sure that oh what's your address, like send it again so I guarantee that I can guarantee that I'm sending it to the right address and make sure that this address was the one that I sent it last to, but it's actually a poisoned address, right? And you lose
Oof.
all your money.
Yep.
we do address resolution within the app itself. So if someone else you also uses Pistachio, you just search up Brian, you send it. You never have to worry about, hey, send me your public address or any of this. It's what's your username on Pistachio, and boom, and it's all easy. And again, all gasless. So I can send like any amount
Nice.
of money at any time, anywhere for free to anyone in the world as long as they have a Pistachio account.
That's very cool. And can you remind a bit how is Pistachio on an Apple Store or like was your you say you mentioned so how
We're
does it
on.
work like with AI like on the AI side? Is actually going all the test flight testing and then submitted it to Apple Store?
Oh yeah, of course. We've been on the Apple Store now for about a year. Like about February of last year was when we were processing through it. It took like a few months to get through just because of like mostly the compliance reasons, and then a few other like small hiccups of like if you want to get through the App Store, you have to make sure that users can delete their accounts and like things
Yeah,
like that like we didn't previously have. So you just have to add that.
yeah.
But yeah, so we have like a multi-stage process of like any time that we get posted through to the App Store, we have to basically we go through internal dev testing. We've been improving our testing lately because the app was like fairly buggy. And then we push to test flight. We do more internal testing on like a live environment. We go back, we improve it, we launch the test flight again, we do more internal testing, and then we finally launch like externally to the App Store.
Nice. Okay. But was this all AI like 80% AI done by Ember or was it like human? Yeah.
Yeah, no. So Ember doesn't have
Okay.
any hand in the Pistachio ecosystem.
Yeah.
Most of
Yeah.
it was done like there are elements that were AI assisted. I'd say like my CTO and our other developers use Claude in their day to day. They were using they used Cursor for a very long time, or I think they
Hmm.
still do. But a lot of the code, especially like in the early days, like our initial architecture, that was all
Yeah.
hand built, right? Because that was before like AI was good enough to actually build code. And so like our security practices, our architecture, our a lot most of the code was like human built. And so but then like AI like reinforced and like later on and like done pass throughs with like audits and checks and like refactors. I mean, a lot of like mostly manual refactors. Like finally, we're at the point where like AI can kind of refactor quite well, and so I think we're starting to use that a bit more for it. But my CTO, for example, was like pessimistic on AI code quality for a very long time.
Hmm.
And so it was mostly just like agentic assisted as opposed to agentic build. Like he did most of it himself just because he's a very good
Hmm.
engineer and
Yes.
wanted to
Makes
make sure
sense.
that this stuff was safe.
Of course, yeah. I think we were mentioning some other live stream. You know, there were two big steps, like the scaling from really vibe coded to actually production, and the other
Mm,
thing is actually auditing, right? Actually, like
mm,
triple highs auditing. I think those two steps will actually like be even more important, and I think like we will find a lot of like PMF dApps being vibe coded that need to actually like go to the next level and scale because they will go viral, but
mm,
they don't have actually the infrastructure to do that. Either need to build everything from scratch, or they're
right.
somehow kind of managing. So I think it's good. So what's happening next? Did I know we have like a couple of like minutes left? So what's next for Pistachio itself? Like you mentioned, you're working on this alpha. We shared it. Like what in terms of like also like how the community can be involved in this, right? I think not just as consumer.
Yeah. So the next steps with that and how they can get involved is so one really cool thing is that we're working hard to bring insurance to
Mhm.
all the DeFi vaults, right? Because I think that's one of the biggest thing that's preventing retail from actually entering and investing in the space. And so our next steps is all of these amazing, high quality, elite curated vaults that we're implementing. The next step is basically to implement on-chain insurance, which is with with a simple toggle switch, right? Like while you're depositing, is hey, are you willing to give up this like 1 to 1.5 or whatever it is percent of the APY to make sure that your position is fully insured? So that's one of the next really big steps for us. After that, we have two big projects. One of them is an AI curation, essentially, or an AI optimized vault, essentially. And so what that will be is you'll be able to like to spin up within Pistachio your own AI agent who will you basically, it's a smart wallet with guardrails. You give him a certain amount of money, and that agent will optimize your allocation across curated investment options again, through like a matter of like more yield, maybe like 22 yield sources, and then be able to basically like manage it and actively manage it for you. Which again, so that'll be good. So that'll really be able to like maximize your APY with that. Obviously with like some like taking on a bit more risk because of the agent and another smart contract wallet,
Hmm.
although they are pretty robust and audited.
Hmm.
And then finally, we're releasing a loyalty system soon, right? And so
Nice.
I really want to like reward our early users, because that's like a big thing for us. Is I think reward systems are very sticky in general, especially with how good crypto is with like tracking a lot of like where you're putting money, where you're keeping money, and like being able to like to tokenize things. I think rewards are like a very obvious next step to say, hey, you guys have been using our platform for like a really long time and you're putting money in these places. I would like to show that by building this loyalty system out for you so you can like gain levels, and
Yes.
eventually, if something happens, that you could be rewarded for it. So.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I think yeah, I agree on the reward side. We're running different rewards programs, and make definitely like a lot of sense. So sounds good. I mean, Brian, it's a pleasure. I think we should definitely have another like live stream in 6 months, like to see how his pistachio is doing, and also like debate more optimization around Cloud Boat and more. So thank you so much, Brian. Any kind of closing word you wanna mention? Any kind of like lesser learned? Please do this before doing this to people, because I think a lot of people are inspired by this live stream now.
Hell yeah. No, I'm glad. If anyone has any questions ever, like with like building questions, feel free to like either like message me or respond to me on X or Telegram. I like to make myself available. Please download Pistachio, give it a try. Let me know if there's anything. Or actually, the current version is a little buggy just because we have like like basically V2 is coming out and it's like fixes everything. But definitely get downloaded anyway, just to like be ready for like the big update. I think everyone's really gonna like it, especially if you want DeFi and like high quality DeFi. Give it a look, give it a shout, and then give me feedback. I'm a
Nice,
feedback machine. I like to be very
nice,
user focused on everything that we build to like to build for people, right? As build for myself and for people, like to build cool things. So.
nice. Yeah, but that's why good thing starts, right? Because you're actually literally building for yourself. And I think a lot of time, like we're seeing more and more, like, hey, I don't want to go with Trello, and you build your own Trello. You build your own
Mhm.
solutions, right? I think I see like even social media scheduler now. I think there is a lot, like, so it's. I think people will start paying more for like the distribution side, than rather than the tech itself. So that,
Mhm.
or they will pay for the tech itself that has distribution. I see, for example, newsletter platform, right? There is an ads processing, there is a, I don't know, some kind of like a newsletter search engine. I think these things make sense, but I would pay for
Mhm.
this. I would not pay for like a CMS hosting now. I would I prefer
Mhm.
just to build that on that. So sounds good. Brian, thanks so much. Thanks so much for hearing us. And yeah, if you have any question, we will send over some link around Pistachio. And thanks so much everyone for listening. We went a little bit like over, but I think it was worth it. Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Thank
Awesome.
you so much for the
Thank you.
opportunity. I appreciate it.
No, pleasure, pleasure. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Brian.